Hi, this is DJ Tina, host of HMTV Canada E-Zine. On the phone with me today is Justin of Unstable Ground. Hi Justin, how are things?
Not bad. Right now I'm just sort of sitting in my apartment finishing the output and the edit of the Summer Slaughter 2007 DVD. So that's going to be hitting stores pretty soon.
Can you tell our audience a little of your background as a film director?
Basically, since I was about 14 or 15, I've been making little documentaries and all that sort of thing, and then I turned it into a career in around 2000, 2001. I started up a company called Unstable Ground, based out of Toronto. We started out doing music videos for independent bands, and then we started into live concerts for slightly larger bands like Dog Fashion Disco and Tub Ring. We produced their DVDs, their retail DVDs. Made a bunch of short films on the side. I got hired by a company that did TV commercials for Universal and Warner, so I was doing, 60 or 70 TV spots for Universal, Warner, Roadrunner, basically any umbrella label that was affiliated with those two majors, WSM, Rhino, all of those. While I was there, I started to notice some things, I guess, insider things, I guess you can say, just in the way things were marketed and how you could kind of sometimes tell, like, what artist is going to be the talk of the town or the talk of the country, months before they're even there, just by how the marketing push is going to be. So while doing that, and also while doing these independent music videos, they kind of connected in my mind, and at that point I started making Working Class Rockstar, which is a feature-length documentary that is being released this year, has a premiere in Toronto coming up on June 9th. So I shot that for over 2 years and edited it and have been shopping it for about the last year or so, and it's really starting to move now. And then it's just it's gone on from there. People approach me for music videos and stuff all the time. I'm doing the Summer Slaughter DVD right now. The company's grown a lot in the last 8 years, and that's kind of the background. Got some feature films in development. There's a lot happening now.
What motivated or inspired you to start Working Class Rockstar?
Well, basically, while dealing with these independent artists, and not even independent artists on labels that have like followings that follow them from city to city and always have a decent crowd in every city they go to. And in talking with them and working with them, I realized they weren't actually making any real money. I mean, not enough to live off of. They'd have to go home and work day jobs. They'd have to do a bunch of work within the industry itself just to pay the bills. Like, the music didn't sustain them. So I just started going out and getting as many interviews as I could, and it was just a general theme I got. And then the film sort of grew from there, like any documentary does. Documentary is a very organic thing. You don't really know what you're making until you've made it.
From your point of view, how can you explain the music industry is changing?
Well, I think everything comes down to technology. 100% comes down to technology. Because, the internet and the distribution streams are entirely different than they were even 10 years ago, and how easy it is for you to get, the word out, and B, the actual music to the consumer, everybody has to scramble to catch up. So there are a ton of indie labels rising up that don't need the capital that the major labels need to be able to do the push that the major labels used to be able to do. They have this great tool like the internet that is a lot cheaper to use and more people can use to push their bands. So you've got 1,000, like a million bands out there, and the whole market gets really oversaturated because there's so many bands and so much competition that everybody kind of has to fight to figure out, okay, what's next in order just to stay on top. And you're going to see a lot of people falling through the cracks, and a lot of major labels are going to have to rethink basically their structure and how they're going about doing things. And there's just a lot. It's a scary time that nobody really knows what's happening. So I think the major change is that the future's coming and nobody knows what it really will hold, because the technology changes so quickly and the distribution avenues change so quickly.
So this is what Working Class Rockstar is all about. It's all about the change in the major bands.
See, that's one focus of it. It does basically focus on that, but it's more a human story. It's about the artist actually, on the front lines and on the ground level, trying to, make a go of it in this new music industry where things are different and they have to really do a lot of the work themselves, and how that reflects on the future of the industry.
Have you got any feedback from the bands you've interviewed on Working Class Rockstar?
Yeah, I've actually talked to a number of them. Most of them seem to really like it. I haven't had any really negative feedback. I mean, I've had some people say, I wish this was in the movie, I wish this point was made. But again, I look at this as sort of like an open door to this topic, and it's not like I can go out and cover everything, because not everybody knows everything, and it's kind of you can only say so much in one film. But other than that, everybody seems to really like it so far.
Has touring and a bigger fan base made any difference for the bigger bands that you've interviewed?
Of course, like Lamb of God, when I interviewed them was 3 years ago, and when they were just coming off of, it was before they had released the album they did, before Ashes in the Wake, before they got signed to Epic, and at that point they had their tour bus, and they were making all right money on prosthetic and that sort of thing. But like, their interview interview back then, would not be the same interview they'd record now that they've been on Epic for, 3 or 4 years, and I'm sure making a lot more money. But the same basic idea is there. Like, as the profile of your band raises, sure, you get more money, but it's one of those situations where you're taking in more money, but so is the label and every middleman in the middle. So it's just your band becomes a product more than a band. So I could definitely see that a lot of the bands that had their profiles grow since I interviewed them, or that have gotten bigger, it might have gotten easier for them. But at the same time, like in any industry, it doesn't matter how big you are, you still run the risk of getting really screwed over, or the label could still drop you. Like it's very much like left up to what the fans want and how the market moves and what the trends change. And I mean, nobody's really safe. They just have to play it smart.
If the music industry was to change for the better, where do we need to start?
Regardless of what the change is, it's going to put a lot of people out of work, first and foremost. So I think that question is loaded because it has to do with your perspective. For the better for the bands, I think that more artist-run companies and more direct sales from the artists and cutting out more of the middleman is better for the artist. But that leaves the middlemen and the people, the reps and the promoters and the marketing people and all that. It leaves a lot of them out of work and a lot of them out of a job. So you've got to really ask, okay, what's the lesser of two evils? I think for the artist, which is really what the music's all about anyway, the big change is that people have to realize that they have to do a lot of their own legwork now. And the more they do that and the more they start to come up with new ideas of how to get their music out there, the more, not more money they'll make, but the more successful they'll be on a very personal level. But again, you could give up a lot of your control and go the other route. It's really another loaded question. I think it has a lot to do with your perspective, like where you're coming from, what you're doing in the music industry, and in general, what you hope to get out of it.
Do you think that file sharing through the internet is to blame for the corporate record companies crumbling?
No, flat out no. I think that it has a huge chunk to do with it, simply because it's almost like somebody went and took their music and they're just handing it off, to millions and millions of people. But the problem is that, again, it's another question of perspective. If this file sharing wasn't there, okay, sure, fine. They're selling their CDs still, and they're making a ton of money off the CDs, but really the side argument they're not really bringing up is that the internet is allowing for all of these smaller indie bands to gain way more exposure than they would have without the internet being there. I mean, you take your average kid in who knows where, he downloads an album by some obscure band from across the world. He wouldn't have heard about that band at all going through the old structure of marketing, not at all. And maybe that band tours through the town and he goes to the show, he buys a T-shirt, he pays for the ticket price, he supports the band that way. Sure, the CD sales have gone down, but there's a ton of other avenues to make money because the word is spreading so much. I think that the major problem, the big thing that really happened, was that the label wasn't prepared, or the labels weren't prepared for this massive boost of file sharing and weren't ready to do the iTunes thing fast enough. So now they are. Now they've got a file on a file server with 99-cent downloads and very little overhead, and it is making a lot of money for them. But the traditional aspect of how they made money, it's almost like the money-making changed. Where the money comes from has changed now, but the money is still there. It's just they have to scramble to kind of adjust their strategy in order to make it.
Do you think that college radio and internet radio stations help get these bands the exposure they need?
Yeah, the same as the internet does. It's another way for people to hear music, and the more of that pops up, the better. Especially at this level, because you hear about through major media outlets, you hear about 5% of the bands out there. Those are the ones that get the main exposure. The other 95%, they need a voice too, and that's where the internet and college radio and all of that comes through really well for them. So yeah, it's essential. It's anybody who enjoys the music that wants to push it, I mean, more power to them.
What's your opinion of how a band can stay successful in the music industry today?
Well, first of all, you need to never do anything half-assed. If you're going to record a CD, if you're going to do a music video, if you're going to go and try and get signed, don't record it in your basement. Don't wait until you have the music to the point where you think people are actually going to want to listen to it. B, have enough money to do a professional recording or a professional music video or a professional press kit, because the thing you have to understand, especially if you're going to get signed, is that these labels, even the indie ones, get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of packages from bands all the time, and the band may sound a lot like you, but look a lot better, just because of the amount of effort that they put into their image, and secondly, just their overall professionalism, because labels want to work with bands that will be able to handle their own end in a lot of ways. Someone who's built their own following, a grassroots kind of idea, is something a label is going to want to work with a lot more. Also, upon a personal level, if you don't want to compromise your music, don't compromise your music. On a money success level, you've got to be willing to say yes to a lot of things that you don't want to say yes to, which, I mean, it's give and take. So, I mean, you want to be successful money-wise, then sell out. You want to actually, gain the respect of your fans and be successful on a personal level and, just make a good living at it. Don't compromise, but be as professional as you can be and prepared to take a long time to get to where you want to go, but at least be happier when you're there.
What's your prediction of the music industry in the future and where it's going?
Again, like earlier, I think it's going to be a lot of our more artist-run companies. We see what Prince did and Nine Inch Nails did and Radiohead did, selling their albums directly through their website. That works for artists on that level because everybody knows who they are anyway, so they're able to get the press out to say, the album's going to sell and it's going to sell through the website, and they make a ton of money off that because they're such a huge artist. I think that once the avenues for distribution and advertising are out, you're going to see a lot of indie labels and smaller bands trying to sell their stuff directly as well, which, even in trying to sell this film, I'm getting a lot of recommendations saying, well, you're preaching this idea, why don't you try and sell it yourself? And it's kind of like a gray area because I could sell it myself, but then that means I have to come up with my own marketing dollars, and I don't, it's hard to say, where you get more money out of that, or even if that's what's important. But I think a lot of it's going to have to do with like the artist getting a lot more control back because the technology allows for it.
When will Working Class Rockstar be released for public viewing?
The first premiere date is in Toronto. We're doing a world premiere on June 9th at the Bloor Cinema at 7 p.m. And an after-party concert with Polka Dot Cadaver, who used to be Dog Fashion Disco, Bloodshot Eye, who is in one of the main bands in the film, and No Supper Required, who were also interviewed in the film. And then in Toronto, it has a second-run screening at the Review Cinema 2 nights later on Wednesday the 11th. After that point, we've submitted it to a ton of film festivals this year, and we are negotiating or talking to a number of companies for DVD distribution at this point, and you will see it by the end of 2008 on a wide scale.
That's awesome. Before we wrap up our interview, can you plug in your web addresses?
You can check out Working Class Rockstar at www.workingclassrockstar.com. My main company website is www.unstableground.net, and the feature film we're working on right now, you want to go to www.theeternalmovie.com.
Any last words?
Famous last words. Whatever you're going to do in life, just go for it 100%.
Thank you, Justin, for allowing our e-zine to interview you. Just wanted to say I learned a great deal from your video, and you rock.
Thanks. Thank you. Have a good day.